Great. Welcome in, everyone. We are about to talk video in the age of AI. AI Palooza is maybe what we should have called half of the summit this year. And it makes sense, right? Like, kind of. I mean, folks. I'm sure for folks who are really following, it didn't come out of nowhere. But I think for a lot of folks, like, whoa, this kind of came out of nowhere and is applicable, and things are happening, and things are not happening yet. And so we're in a new space, and really excited to have Michael here from Gather Voices. And I think you'll share a little bit about your platform as well. And for those of you who I'll just drop the ask out there again. I would love. We're actually using that, and we use this platform to catch your best practices, your takeaways, just thoughts you have as you've been, coming through this. So I'll share just a link here in the chat where you can check that out. And share. It takes less than 5 minutes. You jump on, you're like, oh, I want to share this quick insight in the video, and then we'll share it out to other folks. So, Michael, welcome in. I'll let you finish introducing yourself, all the amazing things you have done and currently do, and then take the session away.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what you just said about that link. A lot of people learn differently, and sometimes your takeaways are things that would actually help other people learn things. So I think it'd be very cool if after this session I could repost that link, and would love to see folks share like what sticks with you from the session. So I'm going to share my screen, and I think I do that. There we go. Hopefully you all can see that.
Yeah, it's up and looks good.
Excellent. And oh, you know what? Let me just do that again because I don't know if I did the share sound. There we go. Awesome. Welcome. Thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to learn about video in the age of AI. I'm Michael Hoffman. There's my email. You can reach me on the socials. And I have been working with nonprofits, with campaigns, with social good organizations for a very long time. I started an agency called C3 Communications, which is still around doing great work. And today I work at Gather Voices, which I will tell you a little bit more about. Please feel free to participate in the chat. So I do not have a monopoly on knowledge. So, all of you folks who are practitioners, I see Sue Ann there, folks who I know a lot of things and have been working in a lot of different important roles for a long time. So please share your insights. So what I'm going to do in the next 45 minutes or so is talk about what do we mean by the age of AI. I think what are the implications of that for us right now in the work that we do. How will that impact storytelling? So going back to thinking about video and storytelling, how is that gonna have an impact there? And then being able to look at some trends. And I want to talk about community video because I think that's where this AI stuff points to, and uh, give some tips around how we see organizations and campaigns succeeding in creating storytelling communities. So again, please feel free to put questions in the chat. And so let's jump in. So when we talk about AI, what do we mean by what is the age of AI? And for me, these are the sort of top line things, and we'll talk about some of these things. So I think the first thing that we've already seen, and that I see, and you can tell me if you're seeing this as well, is a proliferation of mediocre and repurposed content. So one of the things AI can do is, and especially this generative AI that's been about not even 2 years old, is it can write blog posts and it can write social posts, and it is doing that for lots of people. And so what we're seeing is content proliferating, and I don't know about you, but I don't need more mediocre and repurposed content out there. We're already awash in content, and it's a bit of a shortcut. I think the second thing on this list that we're seeing, and I'll talk about some of these, but I'm not going to be giving you a sort of full, like, these are the tools to use. And partly I'm not going to do that because every day they're changing. I mean, they're literally, it's a moving target. I'm sure if you've been in some other sessions, they're talking about AI. It is something that is moving just really, really rapidly. But we're seeing this incredible proliferation of tools and new tools and more tools, but we're also seeing the ability for AI to streamline workflows. And I think this is where the AI is the most useful, is the idea that, hey, we could actually do more faster with AI. And that's different than saying, oh, the AI is going to write stuff for me necessarily, right? And then the last thing I just want to point out is I think the worst stuff gets better. What I mean by that is that we've all heard about and maybe have all worked with folks who have graduated high school, college, and cannot put two sentences together very well. And, there's a lot of folks who just are not great writers out there, and, people whose writing is not clear and those kind of things. And with AI, you can really take the worst of what's out there and make it a little better. So I think what the AI can't do, in my opinion, is things like short form copywriting in a really sophisticated way, and some other things. I find that the AI systems use a lot of cliches and the like. But if you're thinking about, hey, I want to get a serviceable, first draft email copy from this new person who's working with me, well, they should be able to do that today in a way that they were not able to before, right? And and so I think that, and that's another piece when I think about the workflows, is the idea that with AI, you don't have this blank page problem anymore, which is, I don't know where to start. It's like AI can help you get started in a lot of things. That doesn't mean it finishes it for you. And let me know in the chat if that's your experience as well. So I know everybody's always interested in tools. This is one of the best sources I've found around tools. It's this mtysk.wiki. And they have an email that I've subscribed to and a website. And basically what this person's doing is cataloging all these tools that are coming out all the time and being able to, they're in the email, it's like, hey, here's 3 new video tools. Here's 5 new photo tools. Here's 6 new writing tools, and also saying, hey, this looks good and these are interesting. And so, I think that's something that is just a really good resource. And again, it's like a full-time job to keep up with the tools. And this doesn't mean that I don't believe everybody has to be the early adopter of everything, but I think with AI, the changes are profound enough that you need to be watching what's possible, because what's possible, again, is changing exponentially in really short periods of time. So the other thing that's really interesting to me, and I'm going to be talking a lot about this in this session, is that, video is really dominant online today in terms of what people are connecting with, what's creating engagement. But it's really those authentic human stories that become more important. And so I find it fascinating that the year that ChatGPT comes out, Webster's word of the year is authenticity, right? It's almost like these two things are happening at the same time. We're in an age where we can create all this stuff from whole cloth, let's say. It's not actually whole cloth, it's being repurposed, things that the AI's ingested. And at the same time, what people are paying attention to, what they're watching, what they're spending their time with, are real, authentic human stories. I don't know how many of you saw that TikTok thing about the woman who talks about who she married. It's like 50 hours of, I don't know, it's not 50 hours. It's, well, whatever it is, it's a lot. It's like 50 videos. And um, but it's incredible. It's just somebody telling a story, but it's a compelling story, and that's what is breaking through and people are spending time with. So every time I see one of these tools that says, hey, we can actually take stock footage and create, some kind of video, it's like, well, that's nice. But when we look at what's really capturing people's attention, it's human emotion and human faces. And will we get to the point where you can completely fake that? That's frightening. Yes, probably. But again, I think that you can't make up what people are sharing in real life, the things that they're sharing in real life. And I think, we have an advantage. Those of us who work in the world of social good and politics and other things like that, we've got an advantage where we have really good stories. We're not, a clothing brand or something that has to make stuff create meaning around something that might be commoditized. We actually have things that have meaning in a lot of the work that we all do. So I think that's really powerful. So this is like my big takeaway here. And so I want to talk about sort of what we're seeing online with video and video trends. And I want to make that a little more interesting and fun. So let's play a game. I don't know how many of you have ever used Kahoot before, but just take out your phones. And I guess if you're on your phone for this, then that might be challenging, but go to kahoot.it and you can put in this game pin, or you can use this handy dandy QR code to join. I think it's a little more fun for us to play a game rather than just me telling you the trends that I'm seeing. So, okay, we've got a few of you joining. I will give it another minute or two to let folks join. And if you're having trouble, let me know. Dun, dun. Have any of you used this tool before? I know a lot of school kids are using this. It's a nice way to present information that's not just me doing it. Yes, Wendy says my kids use it. Yes, that's where I found it too. Kayla says I love it. That's great. Bianca says it seems cool. I hope you will think so. So great. Well, I'm going to just give it like 30 seconds here and we're just going to jump in. And if you haven't joined, you can still watch and play along at home. So let's get started. All right, video marketing trends we're watching. Actually, I got to turn the sound up because one of the nicest things about this is the funny music. All right, first question. How many hours of online video content does the average person watch a month? 23 hours, 67 hours, 44 hours, or 89 hours? There we go. There's the music. All right. And the answer is 67 hours. We have two folks who got it right. And let's see who those folks are. M, way to go. And B is right behind. Let's go to our next question. What percent of marketers say video gives them a good return on their investment? Okay, the answer was 92%. We had two more folks. So it's interesting. A lot of you said 50%, and I wonder if that's because you have not had good return on your investment in video. So I'd love to hear from you if that's true. M is still in the lead with Chris right behind. The way that this works is it's the right answer, but it's also the speed of the answer that gives you points. And let's go to our next question. Which video format was ranked most popular and effective 4 years in a row in HubSpot's State of Marketing Trends report? Is it animated explainer videos? Is it testimonial videos, short form videos, or presentation videos? It's short form videos. Way to go. Most of you got that. No problem. Let's see what's happening here. M back in the lead, still in the lead, but wow, Chris is very close behind. Let's go to our next question, 4 of 6. According to a Think with Google survey, people care more about a video's production quality than its authenticity. True or false? So again, according to a Think with Google survey, people care more about a video's production quality than its authenticity. It is false. People do not care about production quality like they used to. And that would be obvious for you if you go on TikTok or Instagram and see some of the videos that are getting lots of attention. Chris is in the lead with 3 correct answers in a row. Okay, our penultimate question here. What percent of people say user-generated video is more influential than brand-authored video? Is it 70%, 75%, 82%, or 89%? It is 82%. So threw you off there with the 89%. And Chris is still in the lead. And now let's go to our final question. What factor significantly contributes to the success of video content besides including a dancing cat? The use of plain text and static images, the quality of storytelling, a provocative call to action, the omission of targeting options. Yes, quality of the storytelling and the occasional appearance of a surprise chicken. That is correct. All right. In third place, we've got Lou. In second place, Chris. And in first place, Wendy. Wendy M. Way to go. Just came from behind out of nowhere there. Nicely done. All right, I'm going to go out of this. Anything, and let me go back into my deck. Anything surprising for you in that quiz? Let me know. Bianca, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Wendy, nice job. Way to go. So a couple other things I just want to mention that I think are relevant. People want to connect to people. You know, that's something that we've seen over and over again. Brand content is less trusted, less interesting, and than real people telling their stories. And so, and then representation matters. You know, if people don't see themselves in the content, then they feel like that's not for them. So thinking about not only what the message is, but who are the messengers is very important when you're thinking about doing video. And, you know, one thing to remember is the way video is produced is not the same, you know, at producing for television, let's say, and producing for social media is very different. People are watching a lot of video without sound, so things like captions become really important. The way you shoot something, you know, you might have learned if you were traditionally taught around video production, you might have learned to, you know, use the rule of thirds or something. And but on a phone that's vertical, you know, having something centered is going to make matter more, for example, for the visual connection for people. So those are kind of things you think about with this kind of video. So I want to talk about how to align video with objectives. And I think that's because we don't want to be just making video for video's sake. So we I work with a lot of like trade associations and other organizations where they have events and they have membership and they have advocacy and they might have continuing education, and they might just have sort of general marketing or comms. And these are some of the things they're trying to do. They're trying to get people to register, or they're trying to get acquisition for membership, and that could be for fundraising as well. Advocacy, trying to get people to take actions, registration for courses and the like. So really starting with your objectives and saying, well, why are we making video? What are we trying to do? That becomes really important. And so I'd love for all of you to just take a minute and think about these questions, because this is, as we think about video today, you need to be thinking about some of the same fundamentals as we've always needed to think about. Well, who's your audience? It's not the general public, it's specific. And what stories are going to help achieve those objectives? So think about what kind of stories are going to matter for people. And often what the stories do is take people on a journey, the same journey you want those people watching to go on. So and who are the messengers of those stories, right? Who needs to be telling those stories? And then where do we use those stories? So think about that. And um, we do have a workbook that I can send you if you're interested around these uh, creating a storytelling program like this. But now I just want to give you some examples because I think it makes sense to see what other people are doing and how that works. So I want to talk a little bit about the Alzheimer's Association. And, Alzheimer's Association, one of the big things they're doing in advocacy is trying to make sure that new drugs that come out, people have access to them. And so what they've done is used video content and again, stories of real people to press that message. And one of the really interesting things that they've done is um, by asking lots of people to tell their stories, they've gotten some amazing surprises. So the person in this video, for example, is somebody who has Alzheimer's. And 99% of the time, when you ask somebody to advocate for this issue, it's a caregiver. And that's because much of the time, the person suffering with the disease is not able to participate in something like this. And so the the Alzheimer's drugs that can help people in the earlier stages is something that this person was talking about, and so they realized, wow, this is really powerful for us. And so then they say, okay, would you be willing to fly to Washington and testify? Would you be willing to create other content for us? Would you be willing to talk to media? So the discovery aspect, when you start to ask your community to tell their stories, is something that's really powerful. Let me see if I can just play a minute of this.
What would more time in the early stage of this disease mean for you if you had access to FDA approved treatments? More time in the early stage would mean I had more time to retain a lot of who I was. It means that, maybe my math skills wouldn't be as bad as they were. Maybe my patience wouldn't be as bad as it is. Maybe I wouldn't get as cold as I do now. Maybe a lot of the symptoms that I have wouldn't be as bad. Um,
So you can, and I'll share this with folks if you want to see more of this, but these are things that again, they generally don't hear from, and that becomes powerful for them. And I want to show you how they've been collecting this. So this is the page here. I'm going to put this actually in the chat so that you have access to this and can see it for yourself. So they're asking people to share their story and talking about what they're trying to do, and they're enabling people to share their story right here, but they're also sort of sharing what those stories are on the same page, and created a gallery of videos. And one of the things that we've seen is that seeing other people do that will help unlock people's feeling of wanting to do that, right? So when Brad says make a video about what you learned in this session, you're not seeing anything. It's hard to really understand it. But if you saw your colleagues talking about what they learned in the session, and then you're being asked to contribute to that, it becomes something that's easier for people to do. It's kind of social proof there. So feel free to take a look at this site, and you can see how a user could be prompted to record video right from this landing page. Let me go back to this.
What would more time in the early...
We just heard that already. This is another Alzheimer's campaign, which is about the ENACT Act, and this is around, again, accessibility and equity in Alzheimer's drugs. And what was cool is that the Alzheimer's Association was able to get over 300 videos across congressional districts from within a couple weeks, and that really is a demonstration of the power not only of advocates who care and are activated, but the power of technology that enables people to have video cameras available. That's technology that enables them to be able to share those videos really easily and simply. And so not only did they collect the videos, but they were able to publish them into a gallery and then get those folks who made the videos to share them in their own channels, but then also to be able to share those with lawmakers. And one of the interesting things from an advocacy perspective, and here I'll put this in here as well, so you can see this. And so this is an example where around disparities in research, and there's a video introduction where somebody can record and join advocates like Alexis. And let's see just a little bit of this video.
Hi, I'm Alexis Gerganius, and I am based in Kensington, Maryland, and I would like to ask Congressman Jamie Raskin to support the ENACT Act. As an African American woman, the ENACT Act is personal for me. I understand that for people of color, Alzheimer's and other dementia disproportionately affects our communities. By passing the ENACT Act, we can alleviate many of the disparities that come with research and development in this area.
So, having an example like this is really a big unlock for other people to be able to share, right? They have a really good idea of what's expected of them to be able to share. And we know that simply signing petitions, as we've been doing for the last 20 years, doesn't have the impact that it used to have. And being able to tee up video content for specific congressional districts is something that can be really powerful. So here's another sort of different objective. So this is MPI, which is the Meeting Professionals Organization, and trying to get younger members involved. And so this is, again, where this idea of representation matters, having somebody talk about their own experience and attract people like them. And let's watch just a little bit of this video.
Hi, I am Caroline Cole, a student member of the MPI Tennessee chapter. I'm so appreciative of the endless growth opportunities that MPI has brought me. As a student, I was fortunate to have such strong mentorship from those in my chapter as I began my career in the events industry. In my own chapter, I have been able to participate in numerous education programs and serve in a variety of committee roles, while creating long-lasting friendships with those who share the same passion for the events industry.
So I think it's interesting because this video, on the one hand, she clearly wrote what she wanted to say and, made sure that she had her messaging down. But also look at the production quality is not anything fancy, right? There's no background, there's no whatever. And I think part of it is that lens to the authenticity of it and the idea that, wow, I listen to that as somebody, when I think about somebody her age, having all those opportunities and all the things she describes that she's doing. And, a normal response might be, wow, that's something I want to get involved in. And that's what MPI is seen from being able to utilize tools that enable their members to tell stories. Let me go to the next example.
Hi.
This is something from the Association of Fundraising Professionals, which again, using video to just increase event attendance. So, what I'm trying to do is show you examples that tie back to specific organizational objectives and being able not only to create content that helps you achieve those objectives, but also ideally measure the difference between things that worked, and didn't work. So here's a little bit from AFP Icon.
AFP Icon Virtual is almost here, so I thought I'd give you a little look at the backstage area for day one, because I'm Alice Ferris and I will be once again hosting AFP Icon Virtual, this time for the first day of the conference. And I know if you're already registered that you're probably excited about the vast amount of content that's going to be crammed into a 3-day period. I mean, just for the first day alone.
So you get the idea here. I think that one of the things that this style is this idea of behind the scenes. People are very interested in what's going on inside organizations, what's happening inside your campaign. She's a real person doing this thing. She's excited about it, clearly, and that's going to help attract other people to it. All right. Let me go to another example. So this was an interview that we did with Tiffany from the California Primary Care Association. And this was, again, another advocacy thing. And the idea of the fact, one of the things she says is that the lawmakers aren't interested in hearing from the lobbyists of the organization. They're really interested in hearing from their constituents. And so how do you create those videos? And there's an example video that I think is super compelling here around this issue. The issue that they were working on was during COVID, they allowed people to have therapy remotely in ways that were not legal before COVID. And the industry has basically lobbied to keep that it's really helped people be able to access therapists much easier. And so they wanted to keep those rules in place. And that's what this was about.
We needed to collect stories from the field. Our legislative members and state leaders didn't want to hear from CPCA as a statewide firm or organization. They needed to hear what was happening in the trenches, what the health center staff were experiencing, why it was critical, and those stories needed to be real and needed to be personal. And so we ran through, we go through our list of members, and we identified we definitely wanted to have voices from throughout the state. We have a high concentration in Southern California. We have very little representation in the rural north. So it's really important that we had equal voices from all territories in California. We identified key organizations in each territory, and we sent special invites out, very personal invites to those that we wanted to collect stories from. We also looked at who were the legislators that were holding up, passage of this law. Who were those that were opposing funding of telehealth reimbursement? Because we had to make sure we had representation in their specific district.
So for the Access Telehealth program, this is one of the videos you've got set up. So I'll go ahead and play that.
Hi, I'm Lizzie Horvitz, Chief of Behavioral Health at Marin Community Clinics. We must continue the telehealth benefit for behavioral health even when the pandemic is over. We found that for us and our patients, telehealth has been a true tool of social justice and incredibly effective clinically. We've had patients called into our call center for years expressing suicidality and extreme distress, but we haven't had a way to serve them in the moment. During the pandemic, we've been able to connect those callers with a therapist who can do a session right on the spot and address their needs and ensure that there's not a clinical emergency. Patients have said things to us like, "Thank you so much. I've never spoken to a therapist so quickly. This phone call has saved my life. Please keep this benefit."
That was probably like my favorite video that we received. I think the urgency was clearly communicated in her message.
I really love that video as well. And I think, we have the ability to basically have advocates and have testimony without having to fly in or show up in the state capitol or show up in Washington. And that's new, and it's incredibly underutilized. And I'll say also, as somebody who ran fundraising and campaigning and other things, that the best non-financial actions are often advocacy things to do. So to get people engaged who then become donors, or people to stay engaged if they're already donors, these advocacy actions are really powerful. When somebody articulates on camera why they care, it actually helps them care deeper about it, and it helps them remember it, and helps them connect to the organization in a new way. And I think that's a really powerful side effect of asking a large number of people to share their stories. Okay, so how do you do this? How do you create community-driven video? And we'll talk a little bit about, get back a little bit to AI as well. So, one thing is just thinking about what channels you're already using to communicate with people. Are people subscribed to your emails? Are they on your social platforms? Are they looking for you on YouTube? Where are they already? And it's something that we see where video can maximize online engagement. You're going to get higher click-throughs in email when a video thumbnail's in that email. You're going to get more page views on your site when pages have video. There's more shares and more likes on social with video content. So those are all things that are proven, and you can do that as well. I see Linda raised a hand. So Linda, feel free to put. I can turn on your mic. Let me do that, and you can talk. Linda, what do you got? Maybe Linda's muted. So Linda, you can put in the chat whatever your question is, or you can unmute yourself and share it. And feel free to interrupt me. So to you can use video in all of those different channels to accelerate your impact. So again, with email, increase your click-through rates. With social, increase your engagement. Website conversion pages, search. You have a much easier time getting ranked in search when you have video content for those search terms. And then video will perform better in paid media. So that's one thing. One of many of the folks that we work with are seeing this. MPI, the meeting professionals, is one that recently said to me that they took some of these just regular people videos and they used that as the ads they were running. So some of the paid social that they did, and they were getting twice the click-throughs at half the cost with the video content compared to the other ads that they were doing. So another reason to be using video. So tailoring your short form content to make it relevant to your members or donors or advocates, is something important. So being able to use video platforms like YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, if they're relevant to your audience in particular, not always true. And being able to put video that's in the right format. So one of the things we've rolled out at Gather Voices, for example, because is the idea of being able to repurpose content. So be able to take a video that was shot in a webcam or a normal camera, but then, hey, I have to turn that into a vertical video if I want that to perform well, or I have to turn that into a 4:5 aspect ratio video if I want that to be an Instagram reel and I want it to be optimized for that. So those are some of the things that you should be thinking about doing. And again, it's gotten easier and easier to do that with the proliferation of tools that are out there that help with workflows. So where do we use AI? So you can use AI to really shorten the production cycle. So one of the things we're doing at Gather Voices is we've been incorporating AI into a bunch of different areas. We have our North Star is authenticity. It's really about real people telling their real stories. But within that, and I'll give you an example. We have a we have clients that will get videos in from people on their own devices. That's what our platform enables. And those videos, they'll be behind them will be like an unmade bed or an open bathroom door or something, right? And the people who, run marketing, comms, and other things are like, I like authenticity, but to a point, right? Like I don't really want to under our brand or put on our website this video that has that unmade bed, right? So the idea of being able to in post-production be able to change a background of the video, to be able to say, oh, I'm going to put that into a more neutral setting, or I'm going to put that into what's a blurred image in the background after the fact. So that's something that we've added to our platform where we go, hey, does that change the content? Is that less authentic in a certain way? Yes. But are we compromising the story? Are we compromising the real story from that real person? And the answer is no. And so that's really our line. Those are the questions we ask in using these different kinds of tools. Can we fix the sound on a video? So we have automated sound fixing. We have something called Quiet Zone, where we can take video recorded in really loud public places and strip out all that background noise, and it sounds like somebody's in a studio. It's really remarkable. That was very hard to do before this AI revolution. And again, does that change the authenticity of that? In some way, of course it does. But in another way, does it preserve the authentic story that's being told? And the answer is yes. So that's really our North Star. So captioning is another thing that's gotten much easier. So having to transcribe content, that's something that in our platform, other platforms, it's like click a button. In our platform, it's automatic. Every video comes in and it's transcribed, and you can search through it, and you get and we're adding summaries. So that's another thing that the AI can do is say, hey, admin, there's a new video that came in, or imagine Alzheimer's Associates, you get 300 videos. Wow, that's a lot of videos to watch. Well, now I can get an AI summary of those videos, and I can have ways that I can utilize that and make the workflows easier. And so that's something that we're seeing now that's possible. So again, I would say go back to that site that Brad posted earlier that I mentioned. Again, lots of tools out there to use. Certainly welcome you to check out Gather Voices, but there are lots of tools for different kinds of use cases and different kinds of things that are out there that you can use. So how do you do this at scale? Really, these are the things, and again, in thinking platform agnostic, these are the things you need to do. You need to give clear direction. People, if they don't know what you want from them, it's really hard to do. And that's why those example videos have a real impact. So if I see other people telling those stories, I have an idea what I want. Coaching people, but don't script the people. So you want people to tell their authentic story. You don't want them just to read a script. Time limits. We do not have time. The typical way of getting 1 minute of video has been professionally has been to interview somebody for 30 minutes and spend 2 weeks editing that video into a 1 minute clip. We just don't have time for that if we want to do anything at scale. And so saying to somebody, I'm going to give you 1 minute, or I'm going to give you 90 seconds, or I'm going to give you 30 seconds to tell one specific thing. I'm going to make you do the work to get it in that 1 minute, as opposed to us doing the work after the fact. That's very powerful. Framing the shot. So people often, I'm sure you've been on Zoom calls where you just see the top of somebody's head. You have to remind people, what you're looking for. Lighting is probably the biggest thing from a quality perspective. It's absolutely number one. Being in a noisy place. Again, now we have tools that can fix that, but it's always better to get good stuff, at the beginning. Again, we don't need things overproduced, but you also want things that are not frustrating to watch. And so sound is probably the number one thing there, that people will watch bad video with good sound. They will not watch good video with bad sound, right? Unless they're watching with no sound and they're seeing the captions. So we think of this in 3 steps. gather, build, and share. That's how everything that we do at Gather Voices is built. The idea that, hey, you got to collect content. Where are you going to get it from? Maybe it's from yourself. Maybe it's from your experts. Maybe it's from your team. But also maybe it's from your constituents, from your customers, from your advocates, from your voters, from your members, from your donors. And you got to be able to gather that content effectively and easily. Lots of people, there's 1% of people are video creators, right? The people who want to be TikTokers, the people who invest in equipment and download software and do stuff. 99% of people are what I would call casual creators. They're willing to tell a story if you make it really, really easy for them to do so. And that's where the tools come in. And then you get that content, and then you have to be able to do some things with it. You got to be able to trim it, to add captions, to put it into a branded frame, that kind of thing. So, and then you have to be able to share that content. So there's no point in it if you're the only one that sees it. So being able to easily add that content to social media, to put it into a web page, how do you make that easy to do? And how do you enable the people who run programs, who run social, who do other things, use video like everything else? And I think, that gap is closing. It used to be, as soon as you said video in an organization, it meant, oh, we have to go to the agency, we have to go to the experts all the time. And that's changing, where, hey, we can actually do that in-house today. So, just gathering video anytime, anywhere. So being able to tell people, why do you want them to make video? What's in it for them, right? What's that ask? What makes sense? And seeding that makes sense. So being able to get some personalized asks, start to get some content, other people see that content, they're more likely to participate later. And then, building your assets. So you don't have to do heavy editing, a little bit of polishing. So add some captions, add a little bit of branding, add a call to action. Sometimes a little music will have a huge difference in how somebody feels about that video. We've seen that just adding a branded frame around a mediocre video makes that video feel a lot more polished than it really is. And it's powerful. And then publishing. So consistently publishing. It's not about one video or one viral video. It's really about how are we incorporating video into all those channels, into the things we're doing all the time. And again, these tools are out there to make it easier and easier to do that. And so some tips around remote capture. So, best practices, digital rights, that's important, right? We collect video from someone. Do we have the permission to use that? Well, you need to have that built into your workflow. Deadlines. So when do you want somebody to do that? And keeping files organized, really important. There's, video files are large. It can be a mess. So being able to keep that organized is important. And then the last thing I'll just mention is measuring for success. So again, going back to your goals, what are we measuring? Are we measuring we did video? Who cares that you did video? We care about fundraising. We care about membership. We care about advocacy. What are we measuring there? What are we trying to do? And so establishing some performance benchmarks makes sense, saying, well, what has been the click-through rate in our email? What will happen if we put a video in it? And let's experiment. Let's do some things, but let's make sure we've captured those benchmarks at baseline so that we have an idea of what the impact is of these things, right? And so, that's worth the effort to do, because then you start to really learn what works, in what way. And, again, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good, meaning it's more important to try things and build that muscle than it is to think that everything has to be perfect. And one of the things I counsel folks to do inside their own organizations is to talk about things as experiments. Because when you say, oh, we're going to do this big video thing, and then you build expectations, and if it's the first time you're doing something, you might not have any idea what the impact's going to be. But if you say, hey, video is really important, we need to do some learning, we're going to do some things and measure the impact of those and understand what works. You've set the bar differently and the goal differently, which is, hey, what are these learning outcomes for our organization? How are we growing the skill set to be able to do that? So, I'm sure you all know about SMART goals. So thinking it in that same way, right? The best practices across so many of these disciplines is the same, like being smart about what you do, understanding, what is a specific and measurable and attainable and relevant and timely goal, and doing that. And then again, testing, measuring, changing, and we see this if you do digital ads or you do other things. A lot of the progress becomes incremental, right? It's not, and I think if you're not doing a lot of video, you could actually see big jumps initially and then incremental improvement over time. So that's what I got. I want to. I'm rolling this out for the first time. We have a special at Gather Voices. We just launched something for 501c3 nonprofits, small nonprofits, something at a fraction of the usual cost to Gather Voices. If you're interested in that, the QR code goes to that, or you can send me an email, and feel free to please connect with me over email or connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to continue these discussions. Ethan asks, can your platform work in languages other than English and French? Sure. So it depends on what you mean by work, but one of the things we do is we can auto caption videos in 100 different languages. So the AI captioning will recognize what language is being spoken, will transcribe and create content in that language, and then the intro videos and the text that's intro can be also put into any language. So the things that are not that we don't have changed is some of the menu options for admins is in English. So, but in terms of the end users, we have lots and lots of those doing stuff. A Canadian Union. Probably. Send me an email, but I think so. I have to check with somebody on my team about that, but I'm sure we can figure something out in terms of a Canadian Union. Thank you all. I know we have a few minutes. Any other questions, comments? I'm happy to unmute you, or if anybody wants to share. And I think, Brad, will you put that? Yeah, there you go. So click on the link that Brad just put there. I'm going to click on it actually. And so this is a video request from Brad. And this is actually a great, if you're interested at all in how Gather Voices works, this is a great way to do that. You can listen to Brad here.
Hey, it's Brad from the Center for Digital Strategy, and I'd love to hear one of your favorite takeaways or aha moments that you had here today. Quickly upload it, record it, and we'll share it back out with the community. We'll share it here and we'll share it out on social media. We'd love to hear from you, and can really just be as simple as, hey, it's Brad. I'm from this organization, and I love this quick session that we had from Act Blue, where I learned a little bit more about text messaging and how to make a better ask.
So super, super easy to do. In fact, I will show you that right now. You can just click start. You can.
And Michael, please
Go ahead.
continue sharing with them. This has been another awesome session, and folks, please do finish that. I'm going to hop over and get the next session person ready. And then when you're all set, just hit end webinar and it'll close it out for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad.
Awesome. Thank you.
So if you go to this page that Brad put the link in and you just click record now, what's going to happen is it's going to ask you if it can see your camera. And then you're going to get a little tutorial about all the things people do wrong with video. So make sure light's in front of you, be centered in your screen, try to find a quiet place. It's not rocket science. And then here you'll be, and you'll be able to record. And Brad has given you generously a 3-minute timer to talk about your takeaways. So I would love actually to hear some of your takeaways from this session. If you have any, that would be super cool. And you can even share your screen if you wanted to, but you can just click record, and you can do as many takes as you like before you submit it, and it's super easy. So I am going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn my video back on. Actually, let me close that out and start my video. There I am. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here today, and hopefully you have some interesting and useful takeaways. And please feel free to reach out to me at any time, and enjoy the rest of the conference.